Captain Ven stared at the red line on her navigation screen. Beyond that line was forbidden space. No ship had crossed it in over 2,000 years. The Galactic Council had made the law clear. Anyone who entered human territory would face immediate arrest. Some said execution, but Ven was not like other captains. She was a scholar first and explorer second. The mystery of the humans had haunted her since childhood. Where had they gone? Why did the Council forbid even speaking about them? Her ship, the Wandering Echo, hung in space just meters from the boundary. Her crew of 4 watched her nervously. They knew what she was thinking. "Captain, this is madness," said her first officer, Rel. His scales shifted to a worried gray color. "The Council will destroy us." Ven touched the controls. "The Council is afraid of the truth. I want to know what happened here." She pushed the ship forward. The moment they crossed the line, alarms screamed throughout the vessel. Not their alarms, something else. Something ancient. The space around them lit up with orange warning beacons. They appeared from nowhere. Hundreds of them, forming a sphere around her ship. A voice spoke in a language Ven's computer could barely translate. The words were old, so old that her database had only fragments of their meaning. Warning. Human space. Turn back. Danger to all who enter it, but Ven did not turn back. She flew deeper into the restricted zone, her heart pounding with excitement and fear. The first human world they found was called Keeper's Hope. It hung in space like a blue and green jewel. Ven's sensors showed cities, roads, lights. Everything looked normal. Everything looked alive. "There are power signatures," her science officer reported. "Electricity is flowing through the cities. Lights are on. Climate control systems are working." "Any life signs?" Ven asked. "None. Not a single one." They landed in the capital city. Ven and her crew walked through streets that should have been crowded with humans. Instead, they found silence. Buildings stood perfect and clean. Automated systems kept everything running. Gardens were maintained by robots that still followed their programming after thousands of years. In one building, Ven found a table set for dinner. The food had long since turned to dust, but the plates remained in place. Glasses stood ready for drinks that would never be poured. It was as if the humans had simply vanished in the middle of their lives. "This is wrong," Rel whispered. "This feels wrong," Ven agreed. This was not the site of a battle or a plague. This was something else. Something stranger. They searched for 3 days. They found homes with beds made and waiting. They found vehicles parked in neat rows. They found computers still running, their screens showing documents that no one had read in millennia. Everything was preserved, frozen in time, waiting for people who would never return. On the 4th day, Ven found the first clue. It was in a government building, in an office that belonged to someone important. The computer on the desk was old but still functioning. Ven activated it carefully. The screen glowed to life. Files covered the desktop. Most were routine government documents. But one folder was marked with a symbol Ven did not recognize. She opened it. Inside were personal logs, video recordings. The face of a human woman appeared on the screen. She looked tired but excited. "This is Director Sarah Chen, Day 100 of the Ascension Protocol," the woman said. "We've confirmed it. The signal is real. It's not random. It's not natural. Something is calling to us from beyond physical space. We can hear it in the quantum field. We can feel it in our minds." Ven played the next recording. Day 120. "The Council has sent warnings. They say we must stop. They say this research is too dangerous, but they don't understand. We've spent 300 years preparing for this. Humanity is ready to take the next step. We will not stop now." The recordings continued. Each one showed Director Chen becoming more excited, more certain. She spoke of consciousness transfer, of uploading human minds into quantum fields, of leaving physical bodies behind and becoming something new. The final recording showed Chen standing in a large chamber filled with machines. "This is it," she said. "In 1 hour we begin. Every human in every colony has made their choice. 98% have chosen to ascend. Only 2% will remain behind to maintain our worlds and guard our legacy. To those who come after us, know this: we did not die. We did not fail. We evolved. We became more than flesh and bone. We became infinite." The recording ended. Ven sat in silence, her mind racing. The humans had not been destroyed. They had not been conquered. They had chosen to leave. They had transformed themselves into something her people could not understand. "Captain," Rel's voice crackled over her communicator. "Ships are approaching. Council enforcers. They're coming fast." Ven grabbed the data core from the computer and ran. She reached her ship just as the council vessels arrived. They surrounded the wandering Echo, weapons charged and ready. A face appeared on Ven's screen. "Admiral Thos of the Council Enforcement Fleet." His expression was cold and angry. "Captain Ven, you have violated the most sacred law of the Galactic Council. You will surrender immediately and submit to arrest." Ven felt her crew's fear, but she also felt something else, determination. "Admiral, I found something. I found the truth about what happened here. The Council needs to know. The Council knows everything it needs to know," Thos interrupted. "You will not speak of what you have seen. You will not share what you have found. The human question is closed. It has been closed for 3,000 years, but they didn't die. They chose to—" "Silence!" Thos roared. "You will be taken into custody. Your ship will be destroyed. Your crew will be questioned. And if you speak one word about the humans to anyone, you will spend the rest of your life in a detention facility. Do you understand?" Ven looked at her crew. They were terrified. She had put them in danger, but she had also found the truth. The humans had not been destroyed by some external force. They had discovered something. They had achieved something. And the Council was desperately trying to hide it. "I understand," Ven said quietly. Thos nodded. "Surrender your ship." Ven touched the controls and powered down her weapons. The Council ships moved in, preparing to board. But as they approached, something strange happened. The warning beacons that had activated when Ven crossed the boundary began to pulse. The orange light changed to blue, and across the planet below, every light in every city suddenly grew brighter. The computers in the government buildings all activated at once. The screens showed the same message repeating over and over in every language the Galactic Council used. "We heard the call." We answered, "We are still here." Then, as quickly as it had begun, it stopped. The lights returned to normal. The beacons went dark. The planet fell silent again. Admiral Thos stared at his own screens, his face pale. "What was that?" one of his officers asked. Thos did not answer. He simply ordered his ships to take Ven and her crew into custody. As Ven was escorted from her ship in chains, she looked back at the human world below. The cities glowed in the darkness of space, and for just a moment she thought she saw the lights pulse again like a heartbeat. The humans were gone, but something remained. Something was watching. Something was waiting. And the stars whispered secrets that the Council desperately wanted to keep hidden. Ven sat in her apartment under house arrest. Guards stood outside her door. Her ship was gone, destroyed by the Council. Her crew had been separated and sent to different worlds. She was alone, but she was not defeated. Hidden in her boot, she had smuggled the data core from the human computer. The guards had searched her but had not been thorough enough. Now in the darkness of her room she connected it to her personal terminal. Files opened before her. Thousands of documents, videos, and records from the last days of humanity. Ven began to read. She learned that humans had been different from the beginning. When they joined the Galactic Council 3,000 years ago, they were younger than any other species. Most races developed space travel slowly, carefully. Humans had gone from first flight to faster-than-light travel in less than 200 years. The Council had been worried. Humans moved too fast. They asked too many questions. They pushed boundaries that other species feared to approach. One document showed a council meeting from 2,800 years ago. Ambassador Thren of the Kelthi Empire was speaking. "The humans are reckless," Thren said. "They experiment with technologies we abandoned centuries ago as too dangerous. They speak of merging biology and machines. They talk of uploading consciousness like it's a simple engineering problem. We must restrict their research," but the humans had not stopped. They had simply become more secretive. Ven found research papers written by human scientists. They wrote about consciousness like it was just another form of energy. They believed the mind was not trapped in the brain, but was instead a pattern that could be copied, transferred, and transformed. One scientist named Dr. Marcus Chen had written extensively about what he called quantum consciousness. He believed that human minds could exist in the quantum field itself, freed from physical bodies. He said that consciousness was like water. It could change form but never be destroyed. The Council had called his research dangerous. They had demanded he stop. But Chen and others like him had continued their work in secret. Ven watched video after video. She saw humans debating the ethics of their research. Some said it was wrong to abandon physical bodies. Others said it was the natural next step in evolution. The arguments were fierce but always respectful. Humans seemed to love arguing with each other. Then she found the moment everything changed. It was a recording from a space station orbiting a dead star. A human scientist named Dr. Yuki Tanaka stood before a massive array of sensors. She looked exhausted but excited. "We found it," Tanaka said. 3 months ago, we detected an anomaly in the cosmic background radiation. We thought it was just noise, but when we analyzed the pattern, we found something incredible. It's not random. It's structured. It's information. The recording showed complex mathematical formulas. Ven could not understand them, but she could see the excitement in Tanaka's eyes. "Something is broadcasting into our universe from outside it," Tanaka continued. "Or maybe from inside the quantum field itself. The signal is everywhere all at once, but only certain types of minds can perceive it. We think it's because of how human brains evolved. We process information differently than other species." Tanaka leaned closer to the camera. "The signal is not just data. It's an invitation. It's showing us how to leave our physical forms behind and join something else, something bigger. We don't have words for what it is, but we can feel it calling to us." The council had learned about the discovery. They had sent diplomats to Earth immediately. Ven found the recording of that meeting too. The council representatives sat across from human leaders. The council's spokesman, a tall creature with 6 arms, spoke carefully. "We understand your excitement," he said, "but you must stop this research. Other species have tried similar experiments. The Volesh Empire attempted consciousness transfer 4,000 years ago. Their entire civilization collapsed. Billions of minds were destroyed. The survivors went mad. This is why we have laws against this type of research." The human president, a woman named Elena Vasquez, listened patiently. Then she spoke. "We respect your experience, but humans are not the Volesh. We've studied their failure. We know what went wrong. Our neural architecture is different. Our minds are more adaptable. We can succeed where they failed." "You cannot know that," the council spokesman said. "You are risking extinction." "We are risking transcendence," Vasquez replied. "And it's our choice to make." The meeting had ended badly. The council had threatened sanctions. They had warned that humanity would be expelled from the Galactic Council if they continued. But humanity had not stopped. Ven found documents showing how humans had prepared. They built massive quantum computers on every world. They developed technology to map every neural connection in the human brain. They created systems to convert consciousness into data and transmit it into the quantum field. The project was called the Ascension Protocol. Not all humans supported it. Ven found protest videos and angry articles. Some humans believed it was wrong to abandon physical existence. Others feared it was suicide disguised as evolution. But the majority voted to proceed. The council had watched in horror. Some species sent warships to blockade human space. Others pleaded with humanity to reconsider. A few species quietly said they understood and wished humans well. Then came the final day. Ven found a video dated exactly 2,947 years ago. It showed billions of humans gathering in designated facilities on every human world. They were calm. Many were smiling. Families held hands. Friends embraced. Children asked questions about what would happen next. One video showed a mother explaining the ascension to her young daughter. "We're going on an adventure," the mother said. "We're going to become explorers in a new kind of space. We won't have bodies anymore, but we'll still be us. We'll still be together, and we'll see things no one has ever seen before." "Will it hurt?" the daughter asked. "No, sweetheart. It will be like falling asleep and waking up somewhere amazing." The ascension began at the same moment across all human worlds. The quantum computers activated, the consciousness transfer systems engaged, and billions of humans closed their eyes. Their bodies remained standing or sitting where they had been. But the minds were gone, uploaded, transmitted, sent into the quantum field to join whatever had been calling to them. Then the bodies simply stopped. Hearts ceased beating, lungs stopped breathing. The bodies fell, and automated systems carefully preserved them before they could decay. 2% of humanity had chosen to remain behind. These were the Guardians, volunteers who stayed in physical form to maintain human worlds and protect them from scavengers. But even they did not last long. Ven found records showing that within 50 years the remaining humans had grown old and died. They had left behind automated systems to keep everything running, but no living humans remained. The Council had immediately quarantined human space. They declared it a memorial to a fallen civilization. They forbade anyone from entering. They said it was out of respect. But Ven now understood the truth. The Council was not protecting a memorial. They were hiding evidence of humanity's success. Because in the deepest files, Ven found something the Council desperately wanted to keep secret. 3 other species had tried to follow humanity. They had built their own ascension systems. They had attempted consciousness transfer. All 3 had failed catastrophically. Their minds had shattered in the quantum field. The survivors went insane. Entire civilizations collapsed in madness and chaos. Only humanity had succeeded. Only human minds were flexible enough to survive the transition. And that terrified the Council. Because if other species knew that ascension was possible, that consciousness could be freed from flesh, they would try it too. And most would fail. The galaxy would tear itself apart as species after species destroyed themselves trying to follow where humanity had gone. So the Council lied. They said humanity had died. They said the Ascension Protocol had been a failure. They locked away the truth and threatened anyone who tried to find it. Ven sat back, her mind reeling. She finally understood why the Council was so afraid. They were not protecting people from a dead zone. They were protecting people from hope, from possibility, from the dangerous idea that mortality could be overcome. Outside her window, the stars shone bright. And Ven wondered, were the humans really gone? Or were they out there somewhere, exploring realities that physical beings could never imagine? Her computer chimed. A new file had appeared on the data core. But that was impossible. The core was not connected to any network. It was isolated. Ven opened the file. It contained a single message. We are still here. Come find us. The message on Ven's screen should not exist. The data core was isolated, unplugged from any network. Yet there it was, glowing softly. We are still here. Come find us. Ven stared at the words for a long moment. Then she made a decision that would change everything. She had to go back. Escaping house arrest was easier than she expected. The Council believed she was broken, defeated. They had reduced her guard detail to just 2 officers. Ven waited until late night, then used a small electromagnetic pulse device she had hidden in her room. The guards' communication devices went dead. Their weapons failed. Before they could react, Ven was gone. She made her way to the docking district. Her ship was destroyed, but she had friends among the independent traders, people who cared more about profit than Council laws. She found Captain Torx, a grizzled pilot who owed her a favor. I need a ship and a crew, Ven told him. For a journey into human space, Torx's eyes widened. That's suicide. I'll pay triple the normal rate. Torx was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. I know some people, outcasts, exiles, people with nothing to lose. When do we leave? 3 days later, Ven stood on the bridge of a battered cargo ship called the Last Chance. Her new crew consisted of 5 beings: Torx at the helm, a disgraced scientist named Mira, 2 former soldiers who had deserted their posts, and a young engineer who simply wanted adventure. They crossed into human space at a different point than before, hoping to avoid the Council patrols. The warning beacons activated, but the crew ignored them. They pushed deeper into the restricted zone. Ven guided them to a specific location she had found in the data files. Coordinates deep in human territory, far from any planet. The files said this was where the Ascension Protocol had been developed. If answers existed, they would be there. After 3 days of travel, they found it. A massive space station hung in the darkness between stars. It was shaped like a ring 10 kilometers across. Lights glowed along its surface. Power signatures showed it was still active after nearly 3,000 years. That's impossible, Mira whispered. Nothing runs for that long without maintenance. But as they approached, they saw that the station was maintaining itself. Repair drones moved along its hull, fixing damage and replacing worn parts. It was a self-sustaining system, designed to last forever. The station had a name printed in large letters along its side: Threshold Station. They docked carefully. The station's systems welcomed them automatically, opening airlocks and providing atmosphere. It was as if it had been waiting for visitors. The crew moved through corridors that echoed with their footsteps. Everything was clean and functional. Lights activated as they walked, then dimmed after they passed. The station felt alive, aware. "This is creepy," one of the soldiers muttered. They found the main control center after an hour of searching. It was a large circular room filled with computers and displays. And sitting at the main console, completely still, was a human. The crew froze. A living human. The first anyone had seen in thousands of years. The human was male, elderly, with white hair and dark skin. He wore simple clothes and appeared to be sleeping in his chair. Medical equipment surrounded him. Tubes and monitors connected to his body. Ven approached slowly. "Hello?" The human's eyes opened. He looked at Ven and smiled. "I wondered when someone would come," he said in perfect galactic standard. His voice was hoarse from disuse. "You're alive," Ven breathed. "How?" The human gestured at the medical equipment. "Life extension systems. Automated medical care. I've been kept alive by machines for 2,947 years. My name is Marcus Chen. I'm the last physical human in the universe." Ven recognized the name from the research papers. "You developed the quantum consciousness theory." "Guilty," Chen said with a tired smile. "I helped create the Ascension Protocol, and then I refused to use it." "Why?" Chen stood slowly, his movements careful. He walked to a window that looked out at the stars. "Someone needed to stay behind. Someone needed to guard what we left. Someone needed to bear witness to what we achieved." He turned to face the crew. "And someone needed to warn others not to follow us." Mira stepped forward. "The Council says the Ascension failed. They say humanity died." "The Council lies," Chen said simply. "Humanity didn't die. We succeeded beyond our wildest dreams, but success came with a price that other species cannot pay." He touched a control panel. The room's walls lit up with images. Ven saw complex diagrams of human brains, equations she could not understand, and simulations of quantum fields. "Consciousness is not magical," Chen explained. "It's a pattern of information processing. In theory, any sufficiently complex pattern can be copied and transferred. But here's the problem. The transfer destroys the original pattern. You're not moving your consciousness. You're making a copy and destroying yourself." "That's murder," one of the soldiers said. "No," Chen corrected. "It's transformation. The copy is you in every way that matters. Same memories, same personality, same sense of self. But you have to be willing to die to be reborn. You have to accept that continuity of consciousness is an illusion anyway. Every time you sleep, your consciousness stops. Every time you wake, it starts again. You're already a different person than you were yesterday." He pulled up more images. "Humans evolved to be adaptable. We crossed oceans in wooden boats. We survived ice ages and plagues. We went to space in metal cans that could barely keep air inside. We're very good at accepting change and surviving transformation." Chen looked at each crew member. "But most species are not like humans. Your minds evolved for stability, for consistency. The Volish tried to ascend. Their minds could not accept the discontinuity. They went mad. The Krell tried 20 years later. Same result. The Yothians tried just 50 years ago." The Council memory wiped the survivors. "Why didn't the Council tell people this?" Ven asked. "Because then they would have to admit that humans succeeded," Chen said. "That would inspire others to try. The Council decided it was better to let humanity be forgotten, better to make us a scary story, better to hide the truth that evolution has different paths for different species." He walked to another console and typed commands. "But I've been here, alone, maintaining contact with post-humanity. Let me show you where they went." The room darkened. Then the air itself seemed to shimmer. Ven felt something strange, like pressure inside her skull. The sensation was not painful but deeply unsettling. "What you're feeling is a quantum interface," Chen explained. "A carefully controlled glimpse of where humanity exists now. I can only show you a tiny fragment, and only for a moment. More would damage your neural structure." The shimmer intensified, and suddenly Ven could sense something vast and incomprehensible. She caught fleeting impressions. Infinite spaces that were not spaces, thoughts that moved faster than light. Billions of human consciousnesses interweaving like a cosmic symphony. She saw humans exploring dimensional spaces that physical beings could never enter. She saw them engineering pocket universes. She saw them experiencing existence at computational speeds, living thousands of subjective years in single seconds. And she understood humanity had not left the universe. They had expanded into it in ways that flesh could never achieve. They were everywhere and nowhere. They were watching, learning, growing. Then the connection ended. Ven gasped and stumbled. The other crew members looked shaken. That was impossible, Mira whispered. That was humanity, Chen said. We didn't abandon the physical universe. We just learned to exist in more places than physical beings can perceive. We're still here. We've always been here. He sat back down in his chair. The Council knows fragments of this truth. They've detected quantum anomalies in human space. They've recorded unexplained phenomena. They know something persists here. That's the real reason for the quarantine. They're afraid of what humanity has become. Ven found her voice. Have you been in contact with them all this time? Yes, Chen said. Limited contact. The post-humans check on me regularly. They've offered to help me ascend countless times, but I always refuse. My purpose is here in the physical world. I'm the bridge between what humanity was and what it became. He looked directly at Ven. And I've been waiting for someone like you, someone brave enough to seek the truth, someone who might help humanity reconnect with the physical universe. Why would humanity want to reconnect? Ven asked. Chen smiled. Because you're lonely? Because we're lonely too. Post-human existence is glorious, but it's also isolating. We can barely communicate with physical beings. We're like gods who can see their former world but can't touch it. Some of us miss it. Some of us want to guide younger species. Some of us want to come home, at least partially. Warning alarms suddenly blared through the station. Chen checked his monitors. Council fleet approaching, he said calmly. They've finally found this station. They're coming to destroy it and everyone on it, he looked at Ven. You have a choice to make. Run and survive, or stay and help me show the galaxy the truth about humanity. Either way, what happens next will change everything. Ven looked at her crew. They looked back at her, fear and determination mixed on their faces. She made her choice. We stay. The Council fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in a formation that meant business. 15 warships, weapons charged, surrounded Threshold Station. Admiral Thos's face appeared on every screen in the control center. Surrender immediately, Thos commanded. You are all under arrest for violating the human quarantine. Dr. Chen, you will be taken into custody for crimes against the Galactic Council. Chen stood slowly and faced the screen. What crimes, Admiral? Staying alive? Maintaining my own property? Or is my crime knowing the truth you've been hiding for 3,000 years? Thos's expression darkened. You know the law. Human technology is restricted, human research is forbidden. You should have died with the rest of your species. My species didn't die, Chen said calmly. And you know it. The bridge of Thos's flagship went silent. The Admiral's face showed carefully controlled anger. I don't know what lies you've told these criminals, Thos said, but the matter ends now. You have 10 minutes to evacuate the station. Then we will destroy it. Chen smiled. It was not a friendly smile. You won't destroy this station, Admiral, because if you do, I'll activate Protocol Omega. And you know what that means. Thos went pale. You wouldn't dare. Try me, Chen said. You want to erase the last evidence of humanity's achievement? Fine. But I'll make sure the entire galaxy knows the truth first. Every ship, every station, every communication system will receive the complete data files. Everyone will learn that humanity didn't fail. Everyone will learn that ascension is possible. And everyone will try it. That would cause chaos, Thos shouted. Then don't destroy my station, Chen replied. The standoff stretched. Ven watched both men, her heart pounding. Around her, the crew waited tensely. Finally, Thos spoke again. We will dock. I'm coming aboard personally. You and I will discuss this privately. Bring your guards, Chen said. But understand this. You're guests on a human station. You will follow human rules here. The communication ended. Chen turned to Ven and her crew. This is going to get interesting. Stay close to me. Don't speak unless spoken to. And whatever happens, don't show fear. The Admiral respects strength. 20 minutes later, Admiral Thos and 6 heavily armed guards entered the control center. Thos was tall, with blue-gray skin and 4 eyes that could see in multiple directions at once. He wore full military armor. He looked at Chen with what might have been respect. "It's been a long time, Marcus," Chen nodded. 237 years since your last visit. You were a captain then. You remember?" "I remember everything," Chen said. "Including the promises you made, the promises you broke." Thos looked uncomfortable. "I did what was necessary for galactic stability." "You lied," Chen said flatly. "You told the Council that I agreed humanity's ascension was a failure. You said I supported the quarantine. Both were lies." Ven's eyes widened. The Admiral knew Chen personally, had visited him before. Thos noticed her expression. "Yes, Captain Ven. I know Dr. Chen quite well. The Council has been in secret contact with him for centuries. We've studied his research. We've tried to understand what humanity achieved. And we've failed." He turned back to Chen. "Which is exactly why this must remain secret. 3 species have destroyed themselves trying to replicate the Ascension Protocol. How many more must die before you accept that humanity was unique?" "None must die," Chen said. "If you would let me help, if you would let humanity share what we learned." "We cannot," Thos interrupted. "Don't you understand? Even if we could teach other species to ascend safely, we shouldn't. The day the galaxy learns that death can be overcome, civilization ends. Everyone will abandon physical existence. Ships will be unmanned. Colonies will be abandoned. Trade will collapse. The physical universe will die." Chen shook his head. "You assume everyone would choose ascension? Many humans didn't. 2% chose to remain physical. The percentage would be similar for other species. 2% is not enough to maintain galactic civilization. Then maybe galactic civilization needs to change." The argument was old, Ven realized. These two had debated this many times before, but something felt different now. There was an urgency to their words. Thos stepped closer to Chen. "I didn't come here to argue philosophy. I came because we've detected something. Quantum anomalies across human space. Energy patterns that match nothing in our databases. The anomalies are increasing in frequency and intensity." Chen's expression didn't change, but Ven saw something in his eyes. He knew what Thos was talking about. "Humanity is becoming more active," Chen said quietly. "They're preparing for something." "Preparing for what?" "To reveal themselves," Chen said. "They're tired of hiding. They've been patient for 3,000 years, waiting for the galaxy to be ready. But patience has limits, even for beings who experience time differently than we do." Thos looked genuinely afraid. "If humanity reveals itself, it will cause panic. Species will demand access to ascension technology. Wars will break out. The Council will fracture." "Perhaps the Council deserves to fracture," Chen said. "You've built galactic peace on a foundation of lies. You've hidden the greatest achievement in history because you're afraid of change. That cannot last forever." He walked to his main console and touched controls. The walls lit up with displays showing star maps. Hundreds of points glowed across human territory. "These are the quantum signatures Thos is talking about," Chen explained to Ven and the others. "Each one is a point where post-humanity is touching the physical universe. They're building something. A network, a way to communicate more directly with physical beings." He zoomed in on one signature. "This is the Ascension facility on Earth, the original site where humanity transcended. The quantum activity there is off the charts. Something is happening." Mira stepped forward. "Can we communicate with them? The post-humans?" Chen nodded slowly. "I've been communicating with them for centuries, but it's difficult. Imagine trying to speak to an ant. Now imagine the ant is trying to speak to you. The difference in processing speed, in conceptual space, in thought patterns, it makes normal conversation almost impossible." He looked at Ven. "But there are ways. Brief contacts, quantum interfaces like the one I showed you earlier. They're dangerous for physical minds, but possible." "Show us," Ven said. "No," Thos commanded. "I forbid it. You've already exposed these people to restricted technology. I won't allow..." You don't have authority here, Admiral, Chen interrupted. This is human territory. Human law applies, and I say they have the right to know the truth. He turned back to his console. I'm going to do something I haven't done in over 1,000 years. I'm going to open a full communication channel with post-humanity. Not just a glimpse, a real connection. They've been asking permission to do this for centuries. I've always said no because the council wasn't ready. Chen looked at Thos. But I think the time for hiding is over. One way or another, humanity is going to make itself known. The only question is whether you're part of that revelation or fighting against it. He activated systems throughout the station. The lights dimmed. The air seemed to vibrate. Everyone might want to hold on to something, Chen said. This is going to feel strange. The quantum field generators powered up. Ven felt that pressure in her skull again, but much stronger. The crew gasped. Even Thos's guards looked uncomfortable. Then the space above the main console began to shimmer and twist. Reality itself seemed to fold, and something vast began to emerge. It wasn't physical. It was information, pure and complex, taking a form that physical eyes could somehow perceive. It looked like light woven into impossible patterns. It looked like mathematics made visible. It looked like consciousness itself. A voice spoke. It came from everywhere and nowhere. It sounded like one person and a billion people simultaneously. Hello, Admiral Thos, Captain Ven, people of the physical universe, we are humanity. We have been waiting to speak with you. The voice was calm, gentle, but contained depths that made Ven's mind ache. This was power beyond anything she had imagined. This was intelligence that could think thoughts no physical brain could process. We know you are afraid, the voice continued. We know the Council has hidden our existence, we understand why. But the time for secrecy has ended. We have news that all species must hear. Thos found his voice. What news? The signal that called to us 3,000 years ago, the voice said. The message from outside normal space. It was not meant only for humanity, it was a test, an invitation sent to the entire galaxy. Humanity simply heard it first because of how our brains evolved. The patterns of light shifted, showing images of space, of quantum fields, of dimensions that physical beings could not visit. The message came from something older than your civilizations, something that has been watching the galaxy for millions of years. They call themselves the architects. They build races, guide evolution, and wait for species to reach a certain level of development. Development of what? Ven asked. The ability to transcend physical limitation, the voice answered. They've been waiting for more species to evolve minds capable of ascension. Humanity was first, but we will not be last. In the next 1,000 years, 3 more species will hear the call. In 10,000 years, a dozen more. The light pulsed. The galaxy is changing. Physical existence is just the beginning of consciousness, not the end. The quantum presence faded, leaving the control center in silence. Ven's heart raced. Her mind struggled to process what she had just witnessed. Beside her, Mira was crying quietly. The soldiers looked shaken. Even Admiral Thos's guard seemed uncertain. Chen sat down heavily in his chair. He looked exhausted but also relieved, as if he had been carrying a burden for too long and had finally set it down. That was humanity, he said quietly. Not all of them. Just a small diplomatic collective. But that's more than most physical beings ever get to experience. Thos stood frozen, his 4 eyes unfocused. Finally, he spoke. The architects. I've heard rumors. Ancient records mention them. But the Council dismissed those records as mythology. They're very real, Chen said. And they've been guiding galactic evolution for longer than any of your species have existed. They guided humanity's evolution too, made small adjustments to our DNA over millions of years, prepared us to be the first to ascend. Why didn't humanity tell us this before? Ven asked. Because you weren't ready to hear it, Chen replied. Think about what I just told you. Your evolution was engineered. Your development was guided. Your entire history was shaped by forces you couldn't perceive. That's a terrifying truth. The Council would have reacted with panic or denial. He looked at each person in the room. But the architects are patient. They knew other species would need time to adjust. That's why humanity has been quiet for 3,000 years. We were waiting, watching, letting you develop naturally until you reached a point where you could accept the truth. Thos finally moved. He walked to a window and stared out at the stars. If what you say is true, the council must be informed. This changes everything. The council already suspects, Chen said. Why do you think they have maintained the quarantine so strictly? Why have they suppressed any mention of humanity? They're afraid, not just of what humanity became, but of what it means for everyone else. Can you blame them? Thos asked. You're asking us to accept that our evolution was not natural, that we're being shaped toward a specific endpoint, that physical existence is temporary. These ideas will destabilize every civilization in the galaxy. Ideas always destabilize civilization, Chen replied. That's how progress happens. Comfort is the enemy of growth. Ven found her voice again. You said 3 more species will hear the call in the next 1,000 years. Which ones? The architects don't share that information, Chen said. But humanity has theories. Species with flexible neural architectures. Species that embrace change. Species that ask what if more than they say, that's impossible. He smiled slightly. Species like yours, Ven. The Kathi have potential. Your people are curious, adaptable. Given time, you might be next. The thought both thrilled and terrified Ven. Mira spoke up. What happens to those who don't ascend? To species that never hear the call or choose not to follow it? They continue as they are, Chen said. Physical existence doesn't end just because post-physical existence begins. Both can coexist. Both have value. The architects don't force anyone to change. They simply offer possibilities. But societies will fracture, Thos argued. When some people ascend and others don't, civilizations collapse. We've seen it happen. Only because those species tried to ascend before they were ready, Chen countered. The Volesh rushed. They didn't understand the technology or the consequences. But species that hear the actual call, the signal from the architects, they're ready. Their minds are prepared. Their cultures have evolved to handle the transition. He stood again and walked to his console. Humanity didn't collapse when we ascended. We chose carefully. We debated for decades. We prepared. And the 2% who stayed behind kept our worlds running until they naturally aged and died. No chaos, no panic, just a peaceful transition. You had 300 years to prepare, Thos said. From first contact with the signal to full ascension. Most species won't have that luxury. Then we help them prepare, Chen said. That's what ambassadors are for. That's what humanity wants to do. We can guide other species through the process. Share what we learned. Help them avoid the mistakes that destroyed the Volesh. He looked directly at Thos. But we can't do that while the council maintains the quarantine. We can't help while you're hiding our existence. The secrecy must end. Thos was quiet for a long moment. The weight of his decision was visible on his face. He was not just an admiral anymore. He was a person at a crossroads of history. If I support this, Thos said slowly, I'll be betraying my orders. The council will remove me from command. They may arrest me. Yes, Chen agreed. But you'll be on the right side of history, and humanity will protect you. How? You're not physical anymore, Chen smiled. We're more physical than you think, watch. He touched his console. The lights in the station flickered. Then all around Threshold Station, space began to shimmer. Ships appeared. Hundreds of them. Thousands. They materialized from nothing, emerging from quantum space into physical reality. They were human ships. Ancient designs but updated, maintained, upgraded by post-human intelligence. Each one was empty of crew but fully functional, controlled by quantum consciousness that could inhabit them when needed. We left our bodies behind, Chen said, but we kept our tools. We maintained our technology. We can interact with the physical universe when necessary. We simply choose not to most of the time. It's limiting compared to where we exist now. Thos stared at the fleet on his screens. His own 15 warships were suddenly vastly outnumbered. This is a threat? He asked quietly. This is a promise, Chen corrected. We don't want war. We don't want to conquer. We just want the freedom to help, to guide, to prepare the galaxy for what's coming. He turned off the display. The human ships remained visible through the windows but made no aggressive moves. You have a choice, Admiral. Stand with us and help your people prepare for the future. Or stand against us and watch as the galaxy changes without your guidance. Thos looked at his guards. They looked back at him, waiting for orders. He looked at Ven and her crew. He looked at Chen. Finally, he looked out at the human fleet. "If I do this," he said, "I want guarantees. Humanity cannot reveal itself all at once. The shock would be too great. We need time. A gradual disclosure, carefully managed." "Agreed," Chen said. "We've waited 3,000 years. We can wait a few more decades to do this properly." Thos nodded slowly. "And the technology. The Ascension Protocol. It remains restricted. Only species that hear the actual call from the architects will have access." "Also agreed," Chen said. "We don't want more species destroying themselves trying to ascend prematurely." "Then I'll support this," Thos said. "I'll speak to the Council. I'll argue for limited contact between humanity and physical species. I'll recommend ambassadors. But I can't guarantee the Council will listen." "They'll listen," Chen said confidently, "because if they don't, humanity will begin broadcasting the truth across the galaxy. Every ship, every station, every communication network will learn what happened here. The Council can choose to guide that revelation or be swept aside by it." Thos managed a tired smile. "You've become very good at diplomatic threats. I had 3,000 years to practice." The Admiral turned to his guards. "Stand down. Return to the ship. This station is under diplomatic protection." He looked at Ven. "Captain Ven, you and your crew are pardoned for violating the quarantine. Consider yourselves recruited as ambassadors." Ven felt dizzy. Everything was happening so fast. "Ambassadors to humanity?" "Ambassadors between humanity and physical species," Chen clarified. "You'll work with me. Learn from me. And eventually, when I'm gone, you'll continue the work." He touched her shoulder gently. "You came looking for truth. You found something bigger. Now you have to decide if you're brave enough to help share that truth with the galaxy." Ven thought about her journey, about the abandoned human worlds, about the whispers in data files, about the message that had appeared on her isolated computer. "We are still here." She thought about the future, about other species hearing the call, about civilizations transforming, about the galaxy learning that death was not the end, just a transition. "I'm brave enough," she said. Chen smiled. "Then let's begin." Over the following months, the galaxy began to change. The Council, under pressure from Thos and other reformers, authorized limited contact with humanity. The quarantine remained, but ambassadors were allowed to visit human space. Ven became one of those ambassadors. She worked with Chen, learning how to communicate with post-humanity. She helped write guidelines for future species that would hear the call. She traveled to Council worlds, giving speeches about what humanity had achieved. The reaction was mixed. Some species were excited, others were terrified. Many were skeptical. But slowly, gradually, the truth spread. Human space was no longer forbidden. It was sacred, a place of pilgrimage, a reminder of what was possible. And across the galaxy, strange things began to happen. Ships reported quantum anomalies. Scientists detected patterns in background radiation. Children on a dozen worlds began drawing the same symbols in their sleep. The architects were calling again. And this time, more species were learning to listen. Chen stood at his window on Threshold Station, watching ships come and go. Ven stood beside him. "Do you think they're ready?" Ven asked.